Turning now to your community focus, as we've previously told you, Congress narrowly dodged a government shutdown over the weekend, passing a 45-day stopgap funding bill. Not included in that bill was funding for Ukraine. And joining me now live in studio to bring us up to speed on that conflict is George Krol, retired U.S. ambassador for Belarus, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
So the U.S. has sent more than $75 billion in aid to Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion in early 2022. The new batch of aid is now in limbo. What happens now?
Well, it seems that they'll have to, the Congress and the administration will have to negotiate for the final budget by the end of the year. And the administration clearly wants to add that $24 billion that they had for a supplemental into it. And so it's politics, and it's domestic politics largely. Ukraine obviously needs this money because it is solely dependent on outside donors, and that money from the United States, which is now, I've seen, is up to $113 billion in 4 tranches that the Congress has appropriated time. It pays for everything: the military, their budget, teachers' salaries, and the like. And so they're highly dependent, as the country is certainly suffering as this war continues. So the hope is that there will be a political agreement in Washington to allow that money. And as far as I understand, the money will last for the Ukrainians for about 3 to 4 months. So next year, if this war continues, which I'm afraid it will be, there'll be yet further requests for money of that magnitude of $24 billion, which, well, again, as we're entering a political year in the United States, will then become a matter of politics in the United States, of the Republicans, the Democrats, and the presidential election. So that's where I understand it stands, and so we shall see what happens in Washington.
And you mentioned, that you're afraid this war will continue into next year. Bring us up to speed with the latest on the conflict overseas right now. President Zelensky was here about a week and a half ago saying that Ukraine is winning right now. What is happening on the ground there?
Well, the Ukrainians have made some small advances. The Russians are really dug in, and they have extensive minefields, and they've learned a lot of lessons, both sides, and it's often easier to be on the defense than the offense. So I'm afraid that this is going to be a longer war, and winning, that is a big question. What does it mean? What will the victory look like? And it's not going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately, and people are dying, and Ukrainians and the Russians are dead set, and there doesn't seem to be any effort at any political negotiation to end this conflict. And so we shall see. We're entering the winter season, and that may cause a pause in the fighting, but it won't end the war, unfortunately.
And I want to ask you quickly, it seemed that in the past there had been some signs of potential negotiations. Now it doesn't seem like that has been talked about at all, really.
No, when the Ukrainian president was here, he said they're looking for total victory, which means evicting the Russians from all the territory they've occupied. And the Russians have said, well, they're open to having a peace, but a peace that allows them to have the territories that they currently occupy. So both sides just do not see eye to eye on this by any means. And what will it take to get them to some negotiated settlement, which often means compromise, and that's very difficult politically for both sides. Just the other day, President Putin of Russia announced that 3 of these territories of Ukraine are now part of Russia, which makes it even more difficult for him and his audience to pull away from that. So it is a matter of gamesmanship, but also as the fighting is getting into a slogging and attrition. So it's not a pleasant situation that's going on there, but both sides are sort of staying put for the time being.
Plenty to keep an eye on. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Retired U.S. Ambassador George Krol, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.